Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Handlebar ASMR. For this episode, I'm actually going to go over my top 5 favorite cryptids. Now, some of you may be asking, what the heck's a cryptid? Well, a cryptid is a creature that many believe is a myth, but it never has been proven or disproven that they exist or not. Creatures like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the 5 that I'm about to go over with you now. I'm going to start with, not my least favorite, but I'm going to start with ones that I'm less interested in and move up to my top 1 cryptid that is my favorite. So here we go. My start is the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a cryptid said to live in the Pine Barrens region of New Jersey, which is a pretty haunted place anyway. According to legend, the creature was the unwanted 13th son of one of the state's earliest settlers, Mother Leeds, who offered her son to the devil on his birth in 1735 because she and her husband couldn't afford to raise another child. Ever since then, hundreds of reported sightings of a grotesque two-legged, hoofed monster with a sheep-like head and large scaly wings have been reported in the Pine Barrens. Jersey Devil fever really took off in 1909, when 1 week in January produced hundreds of supposed sightings of the devil across the entire state of New Jersey. The coverage led to such widespread panic that schools were closed and workers were advised to stay at home. And if I recall correctly, there's a story where I believe it's Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, who was living here in the United States at the time, actually shot a cannonball at the Jersey Devil at one point. At least that's how I remember the story. So moving on to number 4, Shug. Shug is the folklore of the British Isles is littered with tales of mysterious black dogs that supposedly haunt rural towns and villages across the country. The Shug is a huge black hound said to dwell in East Anglia on the far coast of England. It's probably one of the most famous, having apparently attacked a church in the village of Bungay, Suffolk, during a thunderstorm in 1577. According to local records, while the villagers were sheltering from a storm in the church, a huge black dog burst through the church door, killing a man and his son, and pulling down one of the pillars supporting the church's steeple, which collapsed into the nave. As it fled the church, the Shug apparently left scorch marks in the wood on the church door that can be seen to this day. One of the things that I find interesting about the Shug story, especially this one in particular, is that most of the times when people see cryptids, it's either like 1 or 2 people, maybe a very small group, but never a whole church full of people. So that one kind of sets this one apart from most. Number 3 on my list is the Goat Man. The Goat Man is usually some kind of goat-human hybrid. Maryland's version of the story says the Goat Man wields an axe and walks up and down the back roads of Beltsville, Maryland, attacking cars as they pass by. The story was popularized in 1971 when the death of a dog was blamed on the Goat Man, and from there it only grew into infamy. This type of cryptid, though, isn't elusive to Maryland. Another Goat Man-like creature is said to haunt Pope Lick Trestle in Louisville, Kentucky. The legend of the creature says that it lures people onto the trestle to meet their death from oncoming trains, or even that the sight of the creature is so unsettling that it causes Goatman of Poplick does in fact lure people onto the dangerous railway trestle. Most of the time, however, these people have come looking for the monster after hearing numerous myths about it. Earlier this year, on April 23rd, a 26-year-old woman was hit by a train while looking for the goat man on the trestle, while her boyfriend escaped getting hit by hanging from the side of it. The trestle itself has claimed many lives before. This is the first time it has been connected to the Poplick goat monster, or goat man. This would be number two on my list, and that is the Yeti, or abominable snowman. The Yeti, once better known as the abominable snowman, is a mysterious bipedal creature said to live in the mountains of Asia. It sometimes leaves tracks in snow, but is said to dwell below the Himalayan snowline. The Yeti is said to be muscular, covered with dark grayish or reddish-brown hair, and weigh between 200 and 400 pounds. It is relatively short compared to North America's Bigfoot, averaging about 6 feet in height. One of the cool things I find about cryptids is that there is some common threads from all over the world, and the Yeti and the Bigfoot is very similar to, the Yeti is very similar to Bigfoot, and there's a lot of kind of overlapping cryptids that, people see very similar things, and a lot of these legends came before there was a lot of travel and stuff like that, so it's just interesting to me that people from all over the world see these similar things sometimes. But this leads me to my favorite cryptid, and that is the Windigo. The Windigo is a humanoid and has an intense craving for human flesh. It is usually described as a tall and emaciated, with skin stretched tight over its bones. Sightings are occasionally reported, and this is normally like a Native American type thing, but sometimes sightings are reported even in white populations in areas where the Windigo myth is strong. Local legend says that to say its name out loud will call down the Windigo upon you. So, I'm in trouble tonight. The legend of the Windigo continued strongly among indigenous populations even into the 20th century. One famous case involves a Cree Windigo hunter named Jack Fiddler, who was arrested and put on trial for killing people he claimed were either Windigos or about to become them. Some of these were euthanized on the request of supposed Windigo families or the people themselves, while others he claimed were sent against him by his enemies. The Windigo is one of the few cryptids for which there is verifiable evidence. In a manner of speaking, the Windigo is a psychosis documented phenomenon where human beings turn cannibal and eat human flesh even when there are other options available to them. Though the situation still might be dire, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, though relatively little evidence exists for Wendigos appearing as per their physical descriptions. And Wendigo's always been kind of one of my favorite cryptids. Windigo is an official Marvel Comics character. There's some episodes where Spider-Man and Wolverine have to team up to find the Windigo. And he's also in the old X-Men arcade game as one of the bosses. And if you really want to see a good representation of what a Windigo is supposed to look like, the video game Until Dawn, the enemies in it are Wendigos, and they're pretty dang scary. So, that concludes this episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please take just one moment to like my video if you did another moment to subscribe. That's really what helps me out the most, and I really appreciate it. So, I hope to see you next time on Handlebar ASMR. Thanks again.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.